Morning, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have a consensus, or we have our number of directors available this morning. Director Bada will be a little bit late. He's working on a personal issue. But welcome. This is July 20th, 2021, 9:30 a.m. here in the boardroom. And this is a regular meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual Board of Directors, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. The purpose of this meeting is to conduct a regular third mutual board meeting in accordance with Civil Code 4930 and was already noticed in accordance with Civil Code 4920. So welcome. Before we get into our program today, if you would please silence all your electronic devices. We appreciate that. And at this time, Director McCary will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, President Parsons. If everyone would please stand and place your right hand over your heart, facing the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, we'll acknowledge the media at a distance. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Is there a second? Okay, Craig seconds. Okay, any objections? Okay, then we'll approve this by consensus. Approval of the minutes for June 7th, 15th, 29th, and July 9th. Do I hear a
Make the motion to
these?
approve that.
Okay, Reza approves it. Second? Okay, Craig? Okay, discussion. Go ahead.
Yes, on item number 9, the agenda prep meeting, I have a correction, please.
Okay,
Let me find out. I just remembered, hold on. Number 5, item 9. In the last particular, I'll tell you what, it's on page 2 of 2 under agenda item 5D. President Parsons, your name is spelled wrong.
You're closer to the mic.
yeah.
President Parsons, your name is spelled wrong in the last item, so I'm sorry about that.
Nope, no problem, no problem. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, unless there's any objection, we'll consider these approved by consensus. Okay, report of the chair. Don't have much to bring forward today because I think it's going to be covered in a lot of the reports. And I think that's going to be more beneficial than me talking right now. So I'll go ahead and we'll go ahead with item number 7, the update of the VMS board. Okay. And Chairwoman Rosemary De Lorenzo will be presenting.
Good morning, board. It's so nice to see you all together. And good morning, residents. We haven't, the VMS board hasn't presented at this meeting for a long time because when I was even on the board, we decided that everything that VMS does is run by Jeff and Siobhan, so they should do the reporting. So Steve asked me to start doing it again, and he's requested that I say something intelligent, which had me up all last night. No, but really, I wanted to bring you up on 2 things. Number one of the things that we started was I always say this wrong, customer services meeting. When we have it once every other month, and this is something new that we started with Jeff. Probably it was Jeff's idea, but we sort of nagged him to it because VMS board is really taking a different role than it has in the past. In the past, they were really just saying, we're here to take care of the employees. Do I have a 3-minute limit? No, we're here. But the thing is we're here to take care of the employees, but we're here to take care of the residents. We're here to make sure that the boards are happy with what we're doing, and we listen to them. So that's why this meeting started. And the first meeting we had to do with all of the procedures in accounting, and Siobhan took fabulous notes. And then we had one about, Siobhan, throw it in case I miss it. We had one about the department, why do I always forget the name of the department? The department where you go to make change your house. So we had a meeting about that. Minor alterations, thank you. I knew I would think of it. And ways to improve it. We will also have meetings on the processes we use for capital projects. And we've made revisions of that, which Jeff will probably talk about today when he talks about M&C. So those are some good things that we've done. There's a lot of negative stuff going on in social media by people who really are, I don't know why they want to create so much disharmony. And whenever I hear, because people tell me, because I'm not on social media, and people will say things like, oh, we should have PCM back and VMS isn't doing a good enough job. And the basic thing is I worked here with PCM and I worked here with VMS. And people don't have any idea as to how hard VMS works to take care of the needs of the residents and the needs of the board. And if we don't do it, we try to fix it. And that's when we hound Jeff and Siobhan a lot. So that's really important. I'll go over my other thing now, though, and I might not usually talk to this, but I will. Elections are coming up. We all know what it's like when you have to vote for members of the board. And I have to say that the third board the board that you have now is a very respectful, well-run board. We do have members on other boards, though, who are very rude to our employees, which is terrible. They're rude to board members, which is terrible. So the basic thing is I'm just going to ask you that when you vote, try to vote with someone who you know, people who have experience. Like, I could say this because I'm on VMS, like Lynn and Reza are going to be running again. And you know how hard they work, especially Lynn, who is out there checking the landscape every minute. And Reza does a really great job in the different areas that he works in. I know when I was on the board, he started working on the water project. So I'm sure that Steve keeps him very busy. So please remember, know who you're voting for and know that the person you're voting for isn't running for the board just because they have a big ego, because that doesn't work. It works when somebody's on the board when they really want to work hard to take care of the community. Thank you all very much, board members and residents.
Thank you very much. Okay, on to open forum. Do we have any speakers, please?
Yes. Our first speaker is Bill Walsh.
Morning, Bill.
Good morning. Good to be here. I want to start out by thanking you for all the effort and the time you put into trying to get the CC&Rs fixed for the insurance issue. I know most of us are pretty sad that it didn't turn out the way it should have, at least the way I feel it should have. But I'm here today because I'd like to encourage some board members to attend and register and attend an SCE training session on Charge Ready, which is happening on the 28th of July, okay? You can get a hold of Guy West or Chris Naylor or maybe even Lori Chavarria to get the link where you can register. I think this is particularly important for Third Mutual because the Charge Ready program is something put together at the request of the state and something that SCE has put $430 million into for their service area to install EV charging stations. And Third Mutual would qualify under that program because we have multi-family units in the community, okay? Anybody who's been around Third long enough knows that the electrical infrastructure in the three-story buildings or anybody that's got parking and carports will not support EV charging, as the vehicles that the car industry is putting out right now are going to be level 2 charging, which is going to require at least a minimum of 220 volts to charge because the range on these vehicles is going up to 250, 300 miles. And to charge a vehicle on a 110 circuit would take you days to get to that level. So these EV charging stations, the big thing for Third's going to have to get into is where do you site these stations? But this training session is about how to apply and all of the details that are going to be involved in that. So I know GRF is going to be involved. Chris Naylor put out a map that he kind of put together just kind of to show where we could put charging stations in Third, United, and GRF. Steve Leonard did a little deeper dive for Third and United based on where existing EV cars are located. So there's some work being done on it for Third, but I'd really like to see people on the Third board get involved in this project. 22 seconds. Okay, thank you. Boy, ramble on. I would like to encourage the board to invite Southern California Edison account manager to come down and explain all of the rate increases that SCE is already received for 2021 and proposing for 2022. Okay, I know you're working on the water. I know you know how much it is costing the community as the El Toro Water District raises its rates. But I think it would be good to have somebody from there come down and speak to the public, because we're all using water, and we know that's becoming an increasingly rare resource. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
I apologize if I mispronounced it, but Fahima Nazari.
Good morning, everyone. You know, by opening my mouth, English is my second language, and please excuse me if I don't say things clear, and give me more time. Reason I'm here has nothing to do with the agenda. It's nothing to do with the agenda today. What am I talking about? This is my issue since 2018. I moved in this community for having leisure. But we have so much issue in our building with the water intrusion, which really, really disturbing. At this time I'm talking to you, I'm homeless for 3 weeks. I was homeless 3 months in 2019 because my house, this is the second time of water intrusion. And every time I believe it's just putting bandage on the issue, and this issue keep coming back. And all the residents are really having trouble. But you see by the voting with 50,000 people here, we only got 1,000 people vote for the CCR. That shows none of these people are able to do anything about it. And even me, I'm disability, but today I thought someone has to talk to board. I know you're working hard. I know it has a lot to do to, serve this community, but some issues are more important than other issues, which is the daily life of the people. I'm not here to, get sympathies from association or board. I'm just here to try to find out the way to fix this issue, because the board rely on homeowner association, homeowner insurance, and our insurance have deductible every time, emotionally, physically, financially. All those things is burden on us, not just me. I know so many people. But for me, trust me, I'm here 3 years. 24 units know me very well because of all of this thing going on. When I moved to this community, I feel young. But today I don't feel. I lost it. I am exhausted. I can't bear with this. And this is very important issue. I think you and us residents, which none of us do anything because we all, don't take or we can't take responsibility. But we have to do something about this water intrusion. This is a big issue. This is a daily life. It's not as much important like even landscaping. This is all these old people coming here. I know my time is finished. For having leisure and relax, not going through this torture.
Can you remind us again of your building number?
4005 1D.
C?
D like David.
D, okay.
Actually, I have something, I can leave it here. because I emailed the water intrusion. I can give you a copy.
Okay, if you just give it to Grant over
Yes.
here, please.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your effort.
Okay, next speaker, please.
Next speaker is via Zoom. It is Karen Shore.
Is she on Zoom?
Hello,
Morning,
can you
Karen.
hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good morning. Hi. Let's see, I'd like to just read my prepared statement. My name's Karen Shore. I live in 4012 3G. Dear third board members, as most of you know, on July 9th, I attended the prep meeting for today's agenda. That was the first prep meeting I attended, and understood that that meeting was recorded on Zoom when it came up in the discussion that day. Previously, I did not realize that the prep meeting was an open session. I found the meeting to be invaluable to better understanding the workings of what board members do on behalf of residents. Today, I'm requesting that the board add a future agenda item to discuss the permanent use of video conferencing for all open session board meetings and committee meetings for Third Mutual. I also request that all videos of the open session meetings be archived on our Laguna Woods Village website at a predetermined set time so that residents know when they can expect access to recording. The use of video conferencing is probably the most innovative upgrade to ever come to HOA meetings, allowing for more participation by residents of Laguna Woods. As the use of Zoom has already been implemented routinely over the past year, it should not be difficult to continue its use going forward. Your vote on a resolution for this matter would assure this technology continues to consistently be available to both residents and board members who can then count on virtual participation in all open meetings, as well as access to viewing at a later date. Passing a resolution to assure better access to our HOA meetings will go a long way to create more transparency of actions by the third board. I'd like to request also that the calendaring of meetings on the Laguna Woods Village website routinely include when a meeting is an open session. As I have a little bit of time left, I'd also like to just comment. I sure appreciate the comments the woman previous to me brought up regarding what is obviously a very emotional issue regarding the insurance, and comment on the VMS board member report, which I was greatly looking forward to, but I did not find it as informative as it could be. I think the residents would appreciate much more hearing about the efficiencies of the various VMS departments and not necessarily campaigning for current board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, next speaker.
The next speaker is Joanne. I will request their name and mayor number as they join.
Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. Could you please state your first and last name and mayor number before speaking, please?
Yes, Joanne Gordon, 3131B. I have a few things. The chat is disabled. I was going to write these in the chat. It's disabled. I don't know if that's purposeful. Also, could the speakers on the board identify themselves before they speak? Because I've been here for 1 year. I've moved in during COVID. I'm not familiar with all of you or anything, so I'd like to get to know you. Also, I really want to understand more about what didn't pass and what may lead to an increase in our HOA dues. I'm curious why 47% of people who didn't take the time to vote or for whatever reason are counted as no votes. And I'm also curious if there's a problem with our database accuracy, and I will gladly volunteer to be on a committee to help try to understand why 47% didn't vote. But it's really, really upsetting that they're counted as no votes when the vast majority who did vote voted for what was being proposed. And finally, I had to complain repeatedly to Rebecca Jackson, and I feel really bad about it, but my lawn is being killed around the edges chemically, and I have tried to deal with this over and over again. Somebody from landscaping knocks on my door and says, oh yeah, we'll take care of you, and then it happens repeatedly. I had a water main break outside in front of my home. They said they'd reseed the lawn, and it doesn't happen. I own my unit, and I'm just, I'm tired of having to complain. I know everyone is busy. I know everyone works hard, but I own the unit. I'm taking care of my unit. I take care of the outside of my unit, and it matters to me. So I don't know how to proceed with all of these things, but I wanted to share what's on my mind. Thank you.
Joanne, this is President Parsons. Could you elaborate just a little bit more on your lawn edging? What is it in particular that you're
Yeah,
having trouble?
So the edge of the lawn is being killed chemically, and all around the little patch of lawn I have, it's yellow. And I've asked repeatedly if I'm going to end up with just a dirt mound as a lawn, because they're killing the lawn. And when I ask, they say they don't want the lawn to impinge on the sidewalk and create a safety issue. And that's so far from reality, I don't know what to make of it. Also, a water main broke outside, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, and they had to dig up part of my lawn. I asked if it would be reseeded. They said yes in a couple weeks, and it was never done. And I'm just tired of complaining about these things.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Another speaker?
Are there any email comments at this time?
Thank you, Grant. Good morning, President Parsons and members of the board. Several comments are available for us today, but I'd like to preface those by acknowledging the third insurance ballot correspondence that arrived. Many members had emailed regarding this topic, and Treasurer Robert Muchnick had replied directly to those individuals, which leaves us today with 4 comments. And the first one comes from Jeannie Braden of 199B. We need you to be an open book and tell us in the meetings about all the money paid to lawsuits or to keep us out of lawsuits.
Elise, I can just barely understand you. Can you repeat that?
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Okay. This comment comes from Jeannie Braden of 199B. Dear Board, we need you to be an open book and tell us in the meetings about all monies paid to lawsuits or to keep us out of lawsuits. Our second comment comes from Carolina Sellis of 40031F. I am concerned about the increased HOA, so I have 2 questions. I want to know what has been considered to reduce the cost of HOA fees. Can golfing become a separate amenity by creating a golf club with paying membership? Hope to get an answer. Thank you. Andrea French of 33352G writes, my comment for the July 20 meeting regarding the CCR vote failure has to do with renters. Having spoken to many renters, it has become apparent that the owners either didn't vote or didn't even know about the vote. My suggestion is that the number of units available for rent should be reduced. This should be an owner's community where owners own and live in their units. Rental units are not kept up the way an owner's unit is kept up, and as a result, they bring down the property value and have a lack of interest in the total community. I would like to see Third Mutual look into eliminating or reducing the number of units in the community that are available for rent. I think this would enhance the community in general. And our last comment comes from Jay Lacey of 3024D. Dear Third Board, I am an 11-year member of Third and I work in the HOA management field. My main issues are the following. Number one, appearance and maintenance of the dwelling buildings and the unreasonably long 15-year time frame between paintings. Number two, water waste from irrigation, toilet leaks, and excessively high water pressure coming into the condos. I have been communicating with management on these issues. I and other members should not bother the board with matters that can be handled by management. Only if members do not get satisfaction at the management level should they run to the board. This is a more streamlined way to handle HOA matters. Management is aware of my concerns. I trust they, including the capable and responsive office of the general manager, will resolve these issues. I will let you know if they don't. Thank you. And that concludes today's comments.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Bill Walsh. Bill, thanks for bringing this.
President Parsons,
Yes.
there is one more person who's asking to speak on Zoom.
Okay, one more, and then we've got to move on.
Okay, and it's Susan Smallwood.
Susan, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Good morning. I'm at 3456B. On behalf of the Good Governance Group, I was in charge of e-blasting our residents of the insurance ballot that was held last month. At the last minute, I received many emails from residents who did not receive ballots and wanted a replacement. Unfortunately, I had to tell them it was too late. The morning of the ballot count, I emailed the board asking that you please extend the ballot for 30 days for those requiring replacement ballots and for us to get out and continue walking the neighborhoods. I was told by President Parsons that I should ask 2 members of our group. I was asking the board as they make the decisions. And I would have contacted you earlier, but when I send out e-blast after so many emails, I am cut off, and unfortunately I couldn't reach you until the next morning. So I know many people were deeply disappointed that they could not get a replacement ballot. I myself didn't receive any ballots. I had to call and get replacement ballots. Secondly, with regard to the committees, you continue to have a majority of directors and the same advisors for quite a few years. It's time to ask for the help of more residents to give a fresh look at our community. They could give you a new set of eyes and new ideas for the growth of our community. It's over 55 years old and it is looking old. It's time for new. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Bill. Just making a note here. Okay, thank you so much for bringing up the SCEC training. And once again, if you want to register for it, it's on the 28th of July. And how far ahead do you have to register?
I suspect probably you could register almost close to 2 days before or something like that.
Okay.
I don't have that information.
Okay. And we'll look into more things. We've already been aware of Chris Naylor and his map, and that's being looked at. And the account manager, we will look into that also from SCE. Okay, on Fahim. Okay. Moisture intrusion in your building. Does anybody want to respond to that? Jeff?
Ms. Nazari, I
Raise
just
it.
want to make
Go ahead.
sure, I'm just want to make sure that if you stay around right after the meeting or during the meeting, I will talk to you about your difficulties. I'm very sorry that you had bad experience, and we'll try to do whatever we can to fix your concern.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, on to Karen Shores. It was nice having her at the agenda prep meeting the other day for the open session. And as we've mentioned in the past, committees function, they have open meetings. People are requested to come to that, not just come to our board meeting and tell us about problems. But you've got to be involved, folks. You got to come out to the meetings, sit, give your ideas, suggestions. So we are glad that she was there. She did help me out on one topic. Appreciate that. As far as video conferencing, I'll let Jeff talk about that, or Siobhan.
President Parsons and to the board. With regards to our process right now, we have created the hybrid scenario where we have the capability of using Zoom and the live in-place board meetings now and having you back, which is great to have you back. So we'll continue that until the directive is to just go with board meetings, or if we're going to continue to use the hybrid, that is at the discretion of the board, and we want to make it available and for our residents and the board members to have the most effective board meetings you can have.
Okay. Do you have the capability of recording all the different committee meetings for GRF, Third, and United?
Yes, the biggest challenge that we have is obviously with the Granicus system that we use. If we're in the board meeting and we have a separate committee meeting at the same time, if we're using Zoom, we can record that separate meeting and then it's placed on Granicus later. It's just not on Granicus at the same time as like the board meeting is right now. So the access issue to reviewing it and looking at it is at a later date versus where somebody could be reviewing this board meeting with Granicus right now.
Okay, can you record 3 simultaneous committee meetings?
My understanding, and Grant may know this, that I believe we can with Zoom, we can record any meeting that's on Zoom.
Yes, so Zoom, Granicus can only stream one meeting at a time. And Zoom can stream one meeting per account. So we would be able to do multiple Zoom meetings at a time, but only one meeting could be on Granicus Live.
Okay. Sounds like we need to look at this a little bit more in depth and get back to you. Any other comments on this from anyone? Okay. Lynn, if you could put that on the agenda for policy and look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. That deals with the website. As far as more information from VMS, Karen, if you could be maybe a little bit more specific in what you're requesting, and then we can pass it on to our representatives on VMS. But glad to have Chairwoman De Lorenzo here to talk about this morning, some of the activities they're up to. So Karen, if we can get some more information, then we can pass that on. Okay, Joan in 3131B wants to know about the HOA assessments and the apathy. Anybody would like to talk about that? Robert?
Okay. All right, Ms. Gordon, many of us share your concerns about the apathy. You're correct that 47% of the people did not vote. We don't know, obviously, the reasons that they didn't vote. However, they were not counted as no votes. The requirement was that 67% of the membership vote yes. Okay, that's the requirement. And only 46% of the membership voted yes. So from that standpoint, the ballot did not pass. However, had 50% plus 1 voted yes, the board would have been able then to go to court to ask the court to approve what the majority of the membership wanted. But since only 46% of the membership wanted the approval of the ballot, we were not able to go to court based on that. So how does that impact your monthly assessment? Well, we were very clear, I think, and upfront right from the very beginning that if the ballot was not approved, that there would be a $93 per manor per month increase That is, and the reason we focused on the $93 per man per month is that that is all that is allowed by law. We're only allowed a 20% increase in any 1 year on the assessment. In fact, the insurance costs us $95.29 per man per month. So not even taking into account raises for employees, increased cost of utilities like water, et cetera, we still don't have enough money from the $93 per man per month increase. So the board was forced to take a close look at all of the programs and projects that we have in place and look for where we could reduce without impacting the infrastructure of the Third Mutual, and also not adding to any layoffs of staff. And we did. We found about $3 million that we could reduce the budget by on a temporary basis to help offset some of the additional costs that the $93 per man per month does not cover. So I hope that helps you to understand exactly what went on and where we are at the very moment in time. Thank you.
Reza?
I just want to make sure one point about the assessment. The mutual assessments are two parts. One is the third mutual assessment, the other part is GRF. The $93 is only on the third mutual part. Any additional assessment for the GRF will come on top of that. So if you see your assessment goes up more than $93, that part comes from the GRF. I just want to make sure that that is clear, so that it's not just $93. Whatever GRF adds on top of that goes on total assessment.
President Parsons?
Yes,
if I
go
may,
ahead.
Just to add to that, so that I'll give you the exact figures. Currently, the Third Mutual HOA is $672. Of that $672 that you pay each month, $468 is the Third Mutual share. $205 per man per month is the GRF share. So when we raise the 20% of $468 is the that's where the $93 comes from. The word is that we expect GRF to be raising its assessment on that $205. They're apparently, at least the last I heard, and this is clearly not written in stone, but the last I heard was they were planning on raising their assessment by $12.50. Okay? You're correcting me?
I was saying the last meeting was $15.
Oh, now it's back up to $15? Okay.
Correcting you. I was in.
All right, I was under the impression it was 12. Jeff, do you know? I'm correct? I'm correct at $12.50, says the CEO. All right, so if you take the $12.50 that GRF intends to raise its assessment, add that to the 93, members of Third Mutual will see come September when they get their letters that the assessment has gone up $105.50. Okay, but as Reza was explaining, please understand only $93, even though that's a lot, $93 is the share from Third Mutual.
Okay, I hope that answers your question. Any more comments from the board? Okay, two other items she mentioned was lawn edging being killed by chemicals and main breaks outside her water unit. Lynn, you want to talk about that?
I'd like to talk about the chemicals, the use of chemicals. We have a problem out there, and I want to make sure that I get her correct banner number because I'm going to go out and look at it. Basically, what's happened, some of the trainees in the landscaping, sometimes when they get a hold of that chemical sprayer, they go a little too far with it. And they make quite a large swath around trees and, the controllers, the water controllers and that kind of thing. So they've been told, and we're watching out for that. So I apologize that that's happened, but I am going to take a look at your place. Thank you.
Okay, Jeff or Siobhan, would you like to talk about the water break outside the unit? Is your mic on?
I apologize. Yes, we've actually been working with the residents since May. There's been a couple occurrences out there with regards to, and also with regards to the spraying. So we'll make sure landscape continues to coordinate with her. She has been in contact with Becky in our office, as well as we've had our landscaping director and his staff working with her. So we'll make sure that we reconnect and make sure this issue that she's just brought up is addressed.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on to, I believe it's Gene Braden. Wanted to talk about lawsuits, and Gene, we can't really do that because of privacy issues. We're not allowed to be in on conversations with anything of specific nature. So we just can't share the information at all. So I'm sorry about that. But as you know, the legal system has its own way of doing things, and this is one of them. So right now, we aren't able to talk about that. Okay, on to Carolyn Sillis, I believe it is. I think part of her concern about the HOA increase has been answered. But then she also asked, what did we consider? There are several things on this, and Robert, you want to start on it, and maybe I can pick up where you leave off.
What did we consider to reduce the cost?
Yeah.
Well, as I indicated, we considered all the different projects through M&C, through general services, through landscaping, and we took a hard look at all those projects. We are reducing, for example, fumigation this year, next year. This year, we did double the number because during COVID, we didn't do the number that we wanted to do. So this year we did double. Next year we're going back down to the number that we normally would do. In terms of waistline remediation, we're slightly altering that project. We're reducing the number of building numbers that we're putting up. We're reducing the red curb painting. I mean, there are lots of those kinds of projects that we've started to curtail that don't really impact the infrastructure as ways to save money, because we need to. Last year, when we had our insurance situation and we only allocated close to $2 million for insurance, the cost of insurance, because of the reevaluation plus the dramatic increase that took place, necessitated that we borrow $46 per manor per month from our disaster fund. And we need to now pay that money, or start paying that money back to the disaster fund. And clearly also the cost of insurance is going up again this year. The estimates are it's going to go up about another 30% in terms of cost of insurance. Yeah, I see. You'll hear later this morning the cost of us and the $225 million that we just purchased, the first $225 million, you'll hear those figures. So yes, it's a dramatic increase. And with the number of forest fires and wildfires in general that are taking place all up and down the West Coast and the 7 western states, it's no wonder that insurance is going up and will continue to go up. And please understand also that all the companies that we deal with in terms of our insurance are all international companies. So it's not just what happens here in Laguna Woods Village. It's what happens in the county, it's what happens in the state, it's what happens in the country, and then it's what happens internationally in terms of disasters that all impact the cost of insurance. So we can't just say, oh, we don't have a problem right here. Why is our insurance going up so much? Insurance companies are in business to make money. You know, that's the bottom line. And they're looking to cut their losses. And in fact, some insurance companies are telling us that they will no longer write in this area because of the propensity of wildfires. And in fact, for those residents who are aware, I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago that we had a fire right here by 73 that came within a couple of miles of Laguna Woods Village. Luckily, the Orange County Fire Department was able to put it out. And it only destroyed 8 acres of land, and they say the reason they were able to put it out so quickly is the Santa Ana winds weren't blowing, and otherwise it would have been much worse and could have impacted Third Mutual. So these are all things that we're facing, and we're trying hard to balance the budget and keep costs as reasonable as possible, but the insurance is just killing us. It's just that simple.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Yeah, some things I'll add to this. Other things that we considered, we changed brokers, which has helped us out to Gallagher Company, which understands HOA business a lot better than our predecessor. We hired a special consultant that knows a lot about financing of HOAs and insurance. We had legal input from a couple different sources. We looked into being self-insured, which we do not have enough money in our reserves right now to accommodate that. And as far as looking into grouping our policy with other HOAs, that's not really a possibility because insurance companies now are not taking big entities like they were in the past and completely insuring everything. They're taking bits and pieces. To follow on with what Robert said about different companies helping us to insure, most of those companies now are only doing like 50 million or 25 million, whereas in the past they may have been doing 700 million. So things have changed in the insurance industry considerably over the last 2 years. We have not heard the end of it as far as we have heard. It'll probably continue on for another year or so and then hopefully settle down. But we have been having a lot of meetings on this with experts and people in this field, and we aren't giving up. We're still researching. So I hope that answers your question, Carolyn, on what we've considered. Okay, any other comments on that?
President Parson?
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure I mentioned that before also, that with all of the cost cutting that we have done, we have in mind that we are not, any of those cutting are not going to impact our regular services. We are still going to make sure that the VMS is capable of providing our standard services and continue with providing superior services. The cost cutting only going to impact the non-essential project that can wait from, for postponed a little bit later, so we can manage our village better. On the insurance side also, I want to say that this board has rolled over dead yet. I guess we have some really aggressive negotiation, like Donna, Craig, and Robert, working with the insurance company and our representative to make sure that we can get the best deal for the community at very reasonable price, whatever that is. I don't think we know at this time because the negotiation is in place. The weather is not helping. The condition out there is not helping, but I guess we're going to continue that as a board to make sure that we're going to get the best deal available to us.
Okay, Director Frankel?
Just for a resident interest, and in furtherance of what Robert said about the fire off the 73, I watched it from my back patio for an hour. And the reason we were able to get it is the proximity of Barbers Lake. There were a half a dozen helicopters that continued to take water from Barbers Lake to put out that fire, and they were obviously successful.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay, we'll go on to Ms. French. She talks about renters and owners. Owners didn't know, and reducing the number of leased units were of concern to her. First, I'll talk about owners that didn't know. Mailings were sent out to everyone, including owners off campus. And as you know, we're a little over 26% owners here who are leasing, okay? So people were notified by mailing. We called many of them, and there's many of them that opted out, frankly, to say, I don't want you contacting me for any reason. So I hope that explains to you some of the obstacles we're up against. But as far as owners not knowing, yeah, they did. Okay, reducing the number of leased units. We have heard this comment from other people throughout the organization and Third Mutual. We've also heard people that would like to increase. So the board is actually in the middle of looking at that currently, and so stand by with more to follow on that. Anybody have comments they want to bring up? Okay, go ahead.
This is Robert Muchnick, Treasurer. I'd just like to share with you that state law now mandates that a minimum of 25% of the manors would be available if an owner wants to rent. Now, obviously, if less than 25% of the owners want to rent, then they wouldn't be available. But if owners want to rent, we have to have a minimum of 25% of the manors available to be rented. So we can't reduce it below 25% by law.
And currently, we have a stipulation of 30% on the books. Okay, let's go on to Jay Lacy. He's talking about the maintenance cycle for painting and also water leaks. Jeff, would you like to address these?
The comment by Mr. Lacy is that, and he has submitted emails to our operation, and we have responded. With regards to the painting, the 15-year cycle is what is been approved by the board, and that's what we implemented with regards to our maintenance construction. We, in an effort to save money in implementing that both for United and Third, we have gone back to the manufacturers of our paint that we purchase for the operation and received the modification to that paint to guarantee that that paint will last for that period of time. So we've upgraded, I guess, the paint quality in the sense to make sure that we have the guaranteed 15-year cycle. So I think we're feeling comfortable about that approach based on getting the quality paint that we need to meet that regards. With regards to some of the other maintenance activities, he's appropriately indicated that he has submitted that to our operations, and we address those when they come in, if he has one, just like anybody else. If somebody has a request, we have them go through resident services and then on up to the various departments that are contacted specifically to address their issues.
Okay. And also, Jay, if you would, if you aren't satisfied, please come to the M&C meetings. And those are open meetings, so you can make your comments known there as well. Anyone have any other comments to Jay? Okay. On to Susan Smallwood. She was talking about people not being able to get ballots in time and also why we didn't extend the time. Would anybody like to comment on this? Okay, I'll take that. Insurance on the number of ballots. I personally was in contact with the Inspector of Elections as well as some other people on the board. And at no time was there any time where a person could not request a replacement ballot. And in my personal calling of some of the off-campus owners, they said, oh, I didn't want to be bothered, or I just misplaced or threw away my ballot, actually. Some others said, oh, well, I didn't really know about the effect of this. One guy from New Jersey, I said, do you know it's going to increase your assessment by $93 if you don't vote for this? And he says, really? He says, what's a number that I can call the Director of Elections to get a ballot? Gave it to him. He said, okay, goodbye. So some of those people responded. Most of them didn't. As far as holding the time open longer, we met on this and debated it. We felt that keeping the ballot initiative open longer would not really be successful, as there were several hundred more ballots that were needed. And according to the Director of Elections, the last minute, not many ballots came in, and not many replacement ballots were asked for. So we considered that it probably wouldn't make it, so why would we want to extend out any cost in staff time to do that? So we took those into consideration and debated this for over an hour. So we hope that explains that to you. As far as getting more input from the residents, as a comment I mentioned earlier, all of our committee meetings, except for the closed portions, are open to people to attend. You can call in, you can give your comments for a committee to consider things. This is where the rubber meets the road, folks, is in the committees. If you don't go to a committee, you come to the board, we have to send it right back to the committee. So please give your comments, and there's a phone number that you can call if you want to give your comments to be considered by a committee, or if you want to show up. Those are all noticed on the front of the community center and online. So please consider doing that. Any other comments? Lynn?
Yes, I want to say that there was a period of 24 hours during our election that the the phone number didn't work. So they had to, when they were notified, they changed the phone number. So as far as I know, that phone number to call in for ballots was not available for 24 hours. Thank you.
Yeah, and to further clarify that, once we were notified of that, the Director of Elections gave her own personal cell phone number for people to call. And if you noticed on TV, that was covered by a crawler. There were actually 2 phone numbers given in the interim until the original phone number came back. So really, people could still get a replacement ballot if they wanted. Information was available. Any other comments? Reza?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that people know, probably everyone knows, that this board, member of this board, went door to door and gave us the flyer about vote yes. And to start with President Parson and other members that went door to door, knocked the door, and gave the flyer, please vote yes. During that period of time, if you pass through any other gates, any of the gates in Third Mutual, there was sign, please vote. And then there was a caravan of car going through neighborhood, blowing their horns. Those are the members. Those are, we were part of it. A lot of the members also participated and promoted the vote yes. And it is, really sad that we couldn't get enough vote to do this. But we, most of the members were participating. I thank them for that. And the board also tried to do whatever we can to an awareness of the issue. And unfortunately, we weren't successful.
Okay, any other comments from anyone? Okay, that concludes our response to the open forum speakers. We'll move on to item 10, CEO, COO report. Jeff, go ahead.
President Parsons and members of the board, and to the residents, good morning, everybody. I have 2 items that I wanted to mention. First, I'm going to go back to something that I've been doing in the previous board members and talk about COVID. For those that saw TV6 this morning, I mentioned that the Orange County Health Agency is back reporting COVID numbers either on a daily basis, but the last report that they presented as of yesterday was based on the last week. And what has been a prevalent dialogue in not only Orange County, but all of the state of California as well as the nation, is that we're seeing a uptick in COVID numbers since June 15th when the state reopened. And part of that uptick is because of what is known as the Delta variant. That variant, as well as just the COVID issues, has presented itself back into Orange County, in which case they reported yesterday that they'd had 1,500 cases of COVID in the last week. So we're averaging over 200 cases a day. We were well under 100 before. And so the issue to that is how to address it, and best address it is from the health agency is to get vaccinations. From the safety precaution side, obviously those that aren't vaccinated, they want to recommend those people wear masks. The County of Los Angeles has gone back to a mandatory wearing a mask when you go into a public place inside. Orange County has not done that at this point. We follow Orange County regulations. So we'll continue to manage that and watch that. But I did want to indicate 2 significant things of that. The 1,500 cases in the last week in Laguna Woods, and we're based on the city, not just the village, but we're 95% of that. We went up 6 cases in the last week. We went up 3 fatalities in the last week just for Laguna Woods. So it is affecting this area, as is it affecting all of Orange County and all of the state of California. ICUs and hospitalizations in Orange County have gone up a pretty big jump. We were below 11 ICU beds in place. Now we're back up to 59 ICU beds, and we're over 100. We have 140 hospitalizations. So again, my point of bringing it up is to encourage people. You can just go on the Orange County Health Agency website. They'll give you all the information of where to get vaccinated. I can only encourage we continue to get people vaccinated. We showed here in the village by doing our vaccination clinic that our zip code, we got over 70% people vaccinated, which is a good element, but we really need the whole community to do that, and that will create as much safety and precaution as possible, along with obviously wearing the mask as far as if you're not vaccinated. And obviously with regards to employees, we'll continue to get our employees vaccinated as much as we can, and also the encouragement of and requirement that if you're not vaccinated, then you need to wear a mask when you're inside the building. So I wanted to give you that update on COVID. The second thing I have is I have some really, really positive news from I think internally from our perspective, and hopefully for the boards too, is that we've been able to recruit and hire 2 key additions to the Village Management Services team specific to our maintenance and construction department. As you know, Ernesto Munoz retired in June, and we began a very quick and aggressive recruitment, of which the board participated in having a preliminary board panel review some of the candidates. We had 5 outstanding candidates that were in that pool. 2 were recommended to the final level, which Siobhan and myself and the other department heads, we reviewed those candidates. And I'm very pleased to announce that Manuel Gomez has been selected, and he is anticipated to start August 16th. Mr. Gomez is a former Public Works Director for the City of Irvine, and previous to that worked for the City of Santa Ana. During his tenure from 2005 to 2018 in Irvine, he oversaw a staff of over 150 employees there in Irvine and budgets over $65 million in operations and $450 million in capital. So he knows how to talk numbers, which is important. But more importantly, and what he showed to our group is a exemplary experience in his customer service value. He's worked with, for those that know Irvine, Woodbridge Village Association is one of the largest HOA associations in Irvine, and his department has always been in concert with the Village Association there in Woodbridge to maintain all the, obviously, streets and highways and codes and all of the infrastructure to meet their needs over there. So his knowledge about working with an HOA and his knowledge of customer service, and then on top of that, one of the big things that we talked about in our interview was project management. His project management skills running the maintenance department in Santa Ana, and then his management of running project management from a director position in Irvine just made it a great fit. I think he's going to be wonderful for the organization. So that's number one. We're looking forward to having him. He's also, in the interim, since he retired from Irvine, he's been working as interim Public Works Director for both the City of Laguna Beach and San Clemente. And Siobhan and I know managers from Irvine and Laguna Beach, and number one, and we know that their customer service value that they put in place in those cities are the same kind of values that we have for a good customer service. So I think it's going to be a great match. The second one, and I'll say it fell into our lap a little bit, but we're very pleased that during that same process in recruiting for the director position, which Mr. Gomez is going to take home, we also had another candidate who did really, really well in the interview process, and this individual is Baltzar, known as Bart Mejia, and he comes from the city of Costa Mesa. He was their city engineer, has totally an engineering and facilities background, so energy related with regards to maintaining facilities. And so although he didn't make the finalists for that, we turned around and offered him the facility engineering position that we have open, and wanted to get him on board if that was possible. And he has accepted that position. He'll be starting August 2nd. So we'll have, finally have that facility engineer. And we're, as part of this whole engagement with these two people and our operations, we're taking a new look at M&C in total and doing a little bit of reorganization. And of course, we'll be working with these two gentlemen when they come on board. The one thing I wanted to mention was both of them are civil engineers. They both have civil engineering college experience and obviously job experience. So that was another one of the key elements that we wanted to bring, that engineering experience as well as their management and planning and construction ideas and knowledge that they have to the organization. Just going to help make us move forward in the right direction. So I'm very pleased to announce that. Again, Bart Mejia will start on August the 2nd, and Mr. Gomez will start August 16th. So looking forward to that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Siobhan.
Thank you, Jeff. Honorable President, members of the board, I have a few announcements this morning. First of all, the paving and parkway repair programs are underway in the village. Maintenance includes repair and replacement of failed sections, as well as application of seal coatings to extend pavement life. The remaining schedule of paving work for 2021 will occur through late July or early August. In Third Mutual, the locations include cul-de-sacs 336, 337, 363, 364, 365, and buildings 3339 and 3340, excuse me. There's also paving taking place on Luz del Sol and Via Portora. The Village Security Program is providing a voluntary bicycle registration program for community residents. This is to raise bicycle theft awareness and reduce the number of unrecovered bicycles throughout the village. It is important to register because if your bike is stolen, security can quickly locate your bike's identifying information and provide it to the Orange County Sheriff's Department. This increases the chance of retrieving your bicycle as quickly as possible. Any information provided is confidential, and you may email security at chief@vmsinc.org for more information. Also, a reminder that you are able to now schedule your family gatherings or friend get-togethers at clubhouses 1, 2, 5, or the Village Greens. Reservations are for the period of July 19th through December 31st, 2021. Reservations may be made in the Community Center Recreation Office Monday through Friday between 8 and 5 p.m. The Disaster Preparedness Task Force aims to inform and prepare residents for major disasters. The American Red Cross will present an earthquake and flood preparedness webinar on Thursday, August 10th at 10 a.m. Please RSVP to disasterprep@vmsinc.org to reserve your space and obtain the Zoom link for that webinar. Additionally, residents who are new to the village are encouraged to attend a virtual new resident orientation session to become familiar with the Mutual and to talk with a board member who represents the Mutual. The next orientation sessions for Third Mutual residents are Wednesday, August 18th at 4:30 p.m. and Friday, September 17th at 9 a.m. Residents must RSVP by emailing Executive Assistant Becky Jackson at becky.jackson@vmsinc.org. And finally, a reminder that the next bulky item pickup is scheduled for Saturday, August 21st. Please remember to notify Resident Services prior to setting out your bulky items. Their telephone number is 949-597-4600. You need to then place your bulky items near the trash enclosure or in the same location you place your trash bins on a weekly basis. Set out the items the night before or no later than 7 a.m. on collection day. And that concludes my updates this morning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just a question for you. Several people, including myself, have noticed a lot of cutting in the pavement and concrete along different places. Is this because of the failed concrete or pavement?
It's part of the repair program. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Nobody seemed to know what that was for, and you had to really watch or you'd go into a hole. So watch out for that as you're driving around. Thank you very much.
We have some member comments on this item.
Okay.
The first comment is a written comment from Karen Shore. It states, the OC Healthcare Agency website already makes recommendations, and this board should only refer residents to this site and not make recommendations beyond a referral to the county and state website recommendations. Further discussions on public health matters by Third Board and VMS is not appropriate as it falls outside of the purpose of our governing documents. National discussion of door-to-door contact of the population regarding vaccinations should not be allowed in Laguna Woods Village.
Okay, I'll respond to her. Yes, health issues are a part of what we are supposed to do. It's health and safety is one of the things that this board is up to. So we will continue giving reports on that. But thank you for your comment. Next comment?
Next comment is from Joanne. I will move her to panelist.
Okay, this is not
Hi
the open
again.
forum, but,
Hello?
okay, Joanne, quickly, this is not the open forum, but what do you have?
Let me just say it. If it's not appropriate, it's fine. Somebody addressed part of what I brought up and said that you don't know why there was apathy. And I just need to say that if we're going to move forward in this community, we have to know why there's apathy. And I had said I would volunteer. I'm a marketing research consultant. I have this background. Being rather new here, I don't know how to do this. So do I just call? I don't know who even to call.
Okay, Siobhan, who can she call, especially if she wanted to work with a committee?
She can contact the CEO's office. That's probably the best number to use, and I will provide that number shortly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on here.
President Parson?
Yes.
I just have one comment about Mr. Parker's issue with the COVID. I just want to make sure that we understood that really staff did a great job January, February to get the community vaccinated at 70% plus. But now there is a discussion about the booster shot. We're reaching a year of the Moderna and Pfizer, which is usually, they're saying the effectiveness is about a year, and they're talking about the third shot. Are we staying in touch with the health system at the OC to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve if that is, going to be adopted? But right now there is a discussion, but I think we should not miss the boat, because in about 3 or 4 months we're all going to be vulnerable again, because I don't think it's going to be more than 1 year of coverage on this shot.
If I may, to respond to that real quick, yes, we're in constant contact and getting information from the Orange County Health Agency. We're also in contact with Memorial Care, who would help facilitate our first vaccination clinics. So, and yes, there is dialogue out there at the national level. Is there going to be a need for a booster? When would that be? That information, as far as I know at this point in time, is really, really preliminary. They're having a lot of discussions at different levels. I'm sure we'll hear from the CDC, and then we'll hear from the state and the Orange County Health Departments as to how that plays out in the future, and we'll keep you updated.
Okay, let's go on to item 11. Was there any other comments? Okay, consent calendar. Do I hear a motion? We accept the consent calendar? Second, okay. Robert? Okay, discussion on it? One thing on it are the third committee appointments. There are new items that were just put on after this particular list of appointments to committees was generated. So there is an update, and our corporate secretary actually has that in the GM's office. So if you need to know who's on what committee, just please give us a call and we can let you know. Okay, any other comments or questions on consent calendar? Okay, unless there's any objection, we'll consider this by consensus. Okay, on to item 12. I don't know of any unfinished business. Okay, new business, item 13. Let's go to 13A. And Lynn, I believe we have a resolution on that.
I think that, just a moment, please.
Okay.
I wasn't ready yet. Okay, we are going to be, I'm going to read this resolution for insurance renewal funding. Whereas Arthur J. Gallagher, the insurance broker for Third, provided a new property renewal proposal and coverage was bound as of June 8th, 2021. Excuse me. Whereas the bound coverage included property insurance limits for the first $225 million in coverage for Third, and the premium amount for this coverage was $3,458,762, with terrorism coverage of $14,044, for a combined premium of $3,472,806. Now therefore be it resolved July 20, 2021, that the Board of Directors hereby approves premium expenditures up to $3,472,806, which will be paid out of the Disaster Fund and Unappropriated Expenditures Fund. Resolved further, $1,736,403 in premium will be paid from the Disaster Fund, and $1,736,403 in premium will be paid from the Unappropriated Expenditures Fund for the insurance policy renewal covering the policy period of June 8, 2021 through June 8, 2022. Resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve this? Okay, Robert? Second, Annie? Okay, discussion.
I would just like to share some information with the members so that they have a full understanding of exactly what's going on and why. As everyone knows, last October 1, we bound $700 million in property insurance coverage, and we shared that first $425 million with United and GRF. And then from 425 and above, that was a policy just for Third Mutual. We have gone with a separate broker. We are with A.J. Gallagher, and United and GRF are with a different broker. And therefore, we are in the process of binding insurance just for Third Mutual alone. We are no longer trying to continue the partnership that we previously had. There are a whole host of reasons behind that that make it advantageous for us to have our own separate insurance, even though it could be a little more costly than previously we experienced. So A.J. Gallagher, we signed our contract with A.J. Gallagher at the beginning of March, and we asked them to go out to market and start to build our own new insurance tower. We wanted to build our own insurance tower for two reasons at that moment in time. One was the original renewal date would be October 1. That would put us right in the height of wildfire season. And to try to get away from insuring or reinsuring at the height of wildfire season, we decided to try to start the policy renewals now. And we were able to get the first $225 million solidified with a June 8 date. So it will, all policies that we now rebuild will be with an expiration date of June 1 of next year to completely remove us from the height of wildfire season. That doesn't mean there won't be increases, but we're hoping that by moving the renewal date to when we now have a June 1 renewal date, that will at least mitigate to some degree the cost of the insurance compared to if we waited to renew it during the height of wildfire. We are now in the process of rebuilding the 225 and above. So at the moment, we have bound insurance for $225 million. We have our own policy just for Third on the 225. We no longer share that with United and GRF. At the moment, though, we still share the policy with United and GRF for the 225 to 425. That's the next layer that we're now working on to separate ourselves from. And we currently still have our own insurance from 425 to 700. So I hope that puts things in perspective and gives people a real understanding of where we are and what's going on with insurance.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, we'll call for a vote at this time. All in favor, raise your hands. Okay, none opposed. Okay. Ray's has stepped out for a minute, so other than that, it's approved. Okay, on to 13B, entertain a motion to introduce resolution to amend the guidelines for financial qualifications policy.
Okay, today we're bringing forth a resolution from the Resident Policy and Compliance Committee for board approval that's all about process improvement efficiencies in the resales process. The point is to eliminate documentation not material to thirds buyer approval process. Currently, the supporting documentation for resales required by the third mutual is often in excess of 150 to 200 pages. By adding a short explanation of the board's expectations to the existing guidelines for financial qualifications policy, greater clarity and transparency will be achieved while making lengthy conversations unnecessary throughout the resales process. Other efficiencies to reduce the number of pages containing escrow company instructions for the board's review include providing only the property detail page and the area sales analysis reflecting the median property value, which are needed for staff's calculations, thus eliminating other miscellaneous pages of data and streamlining the packet for board review. And providing a summary page for each account, as well as eliminating the detailed accounts of various investments, which will further streamline the package. Should this resolution pass and the outlined efficiencies be implemented, the updated resales packet would be shared with escrow and real estate professionals, and internal procedures would be updated. This does not add staff time or dollars. The proposed efficiencies will allow the Community Services Division to process and review the resale packets more swiftly. With that, I'll read the resolution. The resolution for the guidelines for financial qualifications, policy, net worth requirements. Whereas third is formed to manage, operate, and maintain housing at Laguna Woods Village. And whereas third is authorized to adopt rules and regulations to carry out the purposes of this corporation through its board of directors. And whereas third desires to protect the financial integrity of the corporation. And whereas the current guidelines for financial qualifications policy stipulate that a prospective buyer must demonstrate only the purchase price plus $125,000 to satisfy the asset requirement. And whereas an increasing number of prospective buyers own multiple properties with mortgage balances that exceed the value of their assets remaining after the pending purchase of a condominium in third. Now, therefore, be it resolved, August 17, 2021, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby introduces an amendment to the net worth requirements as established within the guidelines for financial qualifications policy. Resolved further that Resolution 03-18-131, adopted August 21, 2018, and Resolution 03-2071, adopted September 15, 2020, are hereby suspended in their entirety and canceled. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution.
Okay, thank you very much. And this will go on 28-day notice. And at that time, then we will vote on it. So any clarifications anybody wants to make on this? Okay, we will proceed further on committee reports. Report of Finance Committee by Director Muchnick.
Okay, thank you. Once again, it's my pleasure to have the opportunity as your treasurer, to share with you the revenue and expenses for the month of May 2021. In the charts that follow, you will see dollar figures and percents for the months of March, April, and May. Grant, if you would, the next slide, please. Skip that one. Thank you. This slide depicts income for Third Mutual for the last 3 months, March, April, and May. Looking at the far left-hand side of the slide, assessment revenue year-to-date at the end of April is $14,417,000, which is $2,884,000 more than reported for the previous month of April. For the first 4 months of 2021, we averaged $2,833,400 of assessment revenue each month. So one can readily see our income from assessment revenue continues to be right on target for the year. I ask that you now look at the non-assessment revenue, which is the set of bar graphs second from the left side of the slide. Non-assessment revenue is a positive $680,000 for the month of May. This is an increase of $109,000 over the previous month, which was $571,000. Now, shifting your gaze to the bar graph in the middle of the slide, you will be looking at the total revenue, which for 5 months ending 31 May was $15,097,000. The set of bars second from the right of the slide for the cumulative months of March, April, and May. Third had $12,764,000 in total expenses. This represents an increase in total expenses of $2,744,000 for May over April. Expenses for each of the past 3 months have been fairly similar month over month. Looking at the bar graph on the far right of the chart, this is the visual for net revenue. Third Mutual had a net revenue of $2,333,000 for the 5 months ending May 31st. This is up an additional $249,000 from the previous month of April. While this is good news, I caution you not to expect this trend to continue. We now have underway a number of projects for which billing will soon follow. Grant, the next slide, please. This slide represents data for income for operating fund only for the 3 months ending May 31st. Looking at the bar graph at the far left of this chart, assessment revenue over the most recent 31 days of May was $1,747,000, exactly the same for each of the previous 2 months. We expect this monthly figure to be the same since it is the money that GRF transfers to our account from the monthly assessment each member pays. Now, shifting your gaze to the second set of bar graphs from the left, non-assessment revenue increased by $109,000 for the 3-month period at the end of May. We had a total non-assessment revenue of $602,000. Now, focusing on the middle of the slide, Third Mutual had a total revenue in the operating fund of $1,856,000 for the month of May, which is down slightly from the previous month by $31,000. Adding the first 5 months together, total revenue for the operating fund only for 2021 is $9,338,000. The bar graphs, second from the right side of the chart, depict total expenses during the same period for the operating fund of March, April, and May, which was $9,035,000, an increase in total expenses for the past month of $2,107,000, just about $168,000 over the previous month. This slight increase in expenses was not only expected, it is really a very significant amount in the overall scheme of things. Subtracting total expenses year-to-date from total revenue year-to-date takes us to the bar graph on the far right, which leaves us now with a positive variance of $303,000 for the 5 months ending May 31st. Grant, slide number 4, please. This slide compares our actual revenue and expenses to what was originally budgeted. The actual and budgeted assessment revenue continued to be one and the same month over month with no real variation. The change each month comes from the non-assessment revenue, which is the second set of bars from the left. For the 5 months ending May 31st, we budgeted $902,000 in non-assessment revenue, but only received $608,000 for the 5-month period. The difference between the actual and the budgeted is a negative $222,000. This negative variance carries over to the middle set of bar graphs, the total revenue, which is a negative $222,000 in budgeted versus actual income. Now, looking at the bar graphs in the second section from the right, total expense, one can see that our actual expenses year to date were $2,143,000 less than budgeted. In other words, $14,907,000 minus the actual expenses of $12,764,000. That's how you arrive at the $2,143,000 less than budgeted. The bar graphs on the far right show us that Third Mutual is left with $1,920,000 revenue over expenses for year to date ending 5/31/21. The $1,921,000 is derived by subtracting the $222,000 negative variance in total revenue from the positive balance of $2,143,000 in budget expenses compared to actual expenses. Next slide, please. This slide provides you with a picture of select budget items and the current variance associated with each for the month of May. You also have the opportunity to see how each of these variances compares to the variance for each category at the end of both March and April. The top bar in each category, which are the green, represent the variances at the end of March, while the middle bars, which are gold, represent the dollar amount of the variance for each category at the end of April. And finally, the bottom bar in each category, those that are brown, represent this reporting period, May. As you can see, looking only at the brown bars, which are the bars most significant for Third at this moment in time, Third continues to have favorable variances for each of the categories for outside service, employee compensation, materials and supplies, and other operating for the period ending May 31st. There has been a positive variance in each of these categories for the past 3 months. In fact, the positive variance in each of these categories has continued to increase over the past 3 months. While this is good news again, I need to caution you that we do not expect this to continue, especially in the area of outside services for which we contract for roofing, tree trimming, slope maintenance, etc., which are big ticket items, as well as some other additional services. The last 4 categories each continue to have an unfavorable variance. There has been an increase in the uses of water and electricity that has continued to cause the current negative variance. The month of May, in particular, saw very little rainfall, necessitating increased use of water for irrigation. The issue with insurance is one that we've talked about regularly for months, and as you know, the board is working very hard to address this moving forward. The cost of our property insurance went up dramatically last year, and we already set the assessment before we knew the premiums. With regard to investments, with the very low, almost non-existent interest rates on our bond investments, there's been a loss of $89,000 year to date. In the next 2 weeks, the board is viewing presentations by at least 2 California banks regarding moving our investments from Sageview and short-term treasuries into government-insured CDs and money market funds that will generate, albeit small amounts of interest, but still generate interest, and therefore hopefully will stop the bleeding we are currently experiencing. Grant, the next slide, please. This slide depicts 2 charts. for comparison purposes, month over month, again, for total non-assessment revenue. Looking at the pie chart for the end of May, overall, we see an increase of $109,333. Comparing the two pie charts, April and May, we have seen a slight decrease in the categories of lease processing fee, indicating a decline in the number of renewals and also in new leases. As President Parsons previously pointed out, we're just over 26% now in leased units, where previously we'd been over 28%. So that's what's impacting the lease processing fee. While the resale processing fee remains stable month over month, the good news about this, which you will see later in this presentation, is that the total resales year-to-date is up over the same time last year, as is the average resale value. Next slide, please. As reported earlier, Third had expenses of $2,743,324, which is actually slightly less than our expenses for April. Therefore, we had total expenses to date of $12,763,568. For those who continue to ask about the cost of our legal fees, on a month-over-month, the fees have stabilized and represent about 2% of our total expenses. When viewing the category of legal fees, once again, please keep in mind when we speak about Third's legal expenses, this is a category that not only includes our expenses for the services of the legal team to Third Board, but also our share, Third's share, of VMS's legal fees that Third is obligated to pay. What this category does not include is the monies that Third receives as reimbursements from insurance companies and/or legal settlement offsets. What I can report to you is that we've begun to get a handle on our legal expenses, and in the past few months, the billing in this area has declined considerably. While this may not continue to remain true, please know that the whole board is working to control all of our legal expenses. Next slide, please. For this slide, I always like to direct you to look first at the lower right-hand corner. As of the 31st of May, Third had $30,727,000, an increase of just over $500,000 from the previous month in reserves and the disaster fund. The replacement fund at the end of April was $19,267,000, while at the end of May, as it shows on the chart, it was $19,506,000, an increase of $239,000 over the previous month in this category. Also, it should be noted that year-to-date, Third had $5,759,000 in contributions and added to these funds, while we had $3,672,000 in expenditures. So at the moment, things are continuing to move in the right direction, with contributions and interest outpacing expenditures from these funds by $2,087,000 year-to-date. Next slide, please. This slide compares the different fund balances for the past 5 years, which have averaged approximately $29.6 million. As you can see from the slide, we have stemmed the tides in terms of losses related to our investments, and we are still holding our own overall when compared to fund balances last year. Next slide. This slide provides you with a picture of the resale situation, which we all should be pleased about, for Third for the past 3 years. Each month, resales continue to exceed the same month in the last 2 years. A total of 179 resales year-to-date is an increase of 56 resales over the same time period last year. The good news continues in terms of resales. Looking at the top right-hand corner of this slide, we can see dollar-wise how we compare to average sales year-to-date. The average sale price per manor for the first 4 months of 2021 is $448,434, an almost $28,000 increase in the average sale this year compared to last year. That concludes the Treasurer's report for this month. Our next Finance Committee meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, August 3rd at 1:30. I will go ahead and assume that since our monthly board meeting is now in person, our Finance Committee meeting will also be in person, assuming that COVID restrictions remain lifted. See you in the Community Center on the 3rd of August. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions here? Okay, moving on to the report of the Architectural Controls and Standards Committee, Director Engdahl.
Okay. The last ACAS meeting was held on June 28. The Manor Alterations Department gave an extensive report updating the status of various items, including additional details on the permitless alteration policy, which has been utilized in a kind of an experimental form in United. There's further discussion going along with that, and no action was taken at this time. Mr. Donacost also reviewed the status of the asbestos-containing material control during alterations. He's had some difficulty in communicating with the Orange County AQMD, still pursuing that. He also presented the latest proposed alteration fees permit schedule. There's a little discussion on that afterwards, including he gave us some reasoning behind the structure that he's developed. And there was a board suggestion made to consider a base fixed fee plus a variable amount based upon the estimated cost. A motion was passed by consensus, and Mr. Donacost was going to look into that possibility. Mr. Donacost also had recently started a Manor Alteration news bulletin to communicate to various contractors and vendors in the area. He said that the reception of that among the contractors was very good, and they appreciated that. Guy West summarized the cost of solar components installed by Lettner Roofing, and there was concern about penetration through the roofing material in conjunction with the installations. And since most of the roofing work was done by Lettner, they were concerned about the validity of the guarantee that they provided with that. So we're going to look into some additional cost numbers on that, a little more detail. Should be coming out soon. There was a room addition request for Manor 5555A. It was considered, and it included a bedroom addition and an expansion into a private area rear garden just off the master bedroom. Following discussion, the request was tabled for the moment based upon lack of sufficient information and detail regarding the proposal. Next meeting of the 3rd Laguna Woods Architectural Control and Standards Committee is scheduled for Monday, July 26th at 9:30 a.m. And I think that's here in the boardroom and possibly also virtually, I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Okay, on to report of Communications Committee, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The 3rd Communication Committee meeting had to be postponed because of a conflict with budget meetings. So the meeting was postponed. The next meeting is to be announced.
Okay, thank you. On to report of Maintenance Construction Committee, Director Muchnick.
Thank you, Chairperson Parsons. All right, Maintenance and Construction Committee met on Wednesday, the 7th of July. I'm sorry, the 7th of July. A review of the project log was undertaken. A discussion of Senate Bill 326, which relates to the inspection of balconies and breezeways, took place. For information purposes, just to have everybody understand, Senate Bill 326 relates to a requirement by the state of California that we are inspecting on a statistically significant random sample the balconies and breezeways in our third mutual. This is a result of, there was a collapse of a balcony that probably many of you are aware of that took place a number of years ago up in San Francisco, where a balcony from 1 story pancaked down and there was a considerable number of injuries and a number of deaths. So the state of California implemented Senate Bill 326. So we had a long discussion about the inspection of those balconies and the raised breezeways. And Guy West, who's the interim M&C director, assured us, as has his predecessor, Ernesto Munez, that our balconies and breezeways are actually in very good shape. They are regularly examined and maintained as part of our dry rot program. However, a statistically significant random sample of the balconies and breezeways will be examined by a structural engineer, and that has to be completed by 2025, and we expect to actually begin this whole process in 2023. This should be more than adequate to meet the requirements of the Senate bill. In terms of installing Shepherd's Crook along the dog park, that's something that we are trying to do at this point. The plans are under review by the City of Laguna Woods, and the reason that they have to review the plan is that in the new dog park, which is a Laguna Woods dog park, not Laguna Woods Village, that wall belongs to the city. And for us to be able to put the Shepherd's Crook on the wall, it has to meet the approval of Laguna Woods, the city of Laguna Woods. So that's underway right now. They have the drawings, and once we have a positive response from the city, we're prepared to start the installation. The next meeting of the M&C committee is scheduled for September 8th at 1:30, and it will be an in-person meeting here in the boardroom. Thank you.
Thank you very much. On to report of Parking and Golf Cart Subcommittee. I'll be reporting on that. Our next meeting is the 18th of August, 1:30 p.m. And we'll be taking up subjects such as red striping, the painting thereof on curbs, parking lots that are assigned to different people, EV charging station locations. So we'll be taking up all of those things. People are welcome to attend. Where it'll be held is to be determined. So we'll go on to the Garden Villa Rec Room Subcommittee, Director Jarrett.
Our last meeting was June the 8th, which I reported on last month's meeting. Our next meeting will be in October, but the date will be announced.
Okay, report of Water Committee, Director Sostak.
Thank you, President Parsons. Thank you, President Parsons. Given our ongoing drought, the expense of importing 100% of our drinking water, which El Toro Water District is forced to do, and the fact that that led to a rate increase for us, there's no question that water conservation is more important than ever. And I just wanted to share a couple of things with you because our audience is larger than it is at our water committees, and water is so important. Water here in the village is divided really into two parts. We have our landscape water, which fortunately for Third Mutual is primarily now recycled water. And that is unique. Not the other mutuals don't necessarily have that. And so that's quite important. And I wanted to share some of what our landscaping department has done because it's really significant. A free study was conducted by El Toro Water District in 2019. And out of the recommendations, they had suggested that replacing unused areas of lawn with drought-tolerant plant materials would have the greatest potential for saving not only water, but maintenance costs, because we wouldn't be edging and trimming and cutting and fertilizing and all the things involved in it. And since that 2019 study, over 62,000 square feet of unused turf has been replaced in the village with drought-resistant plants. And for Third Mutual, over 13,000 square feet just during 2020 and the first part of 2021 has been replaced. So we just never get to hear about those things, and I really wanted to share that. Additionally, the central irrigation control system, which is really important, is being updated in a multi-year project, and spray nozzles are being replaced with more efficient rotary nozzles as the budget allows. We'd love to do them all in one day, but that can't happen. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. In terms of residential water, that's where we all play a role. And our water bill is divided into two parts, landscaping and residential water. Some of you receive a letter from us that your water use is in the Tier 4 range and the excessive range. If you get such a letter, please take a look, see what your usage is, see if there maybe is a leak that you aren't aware of. I can tell you that we got one of those letters ourselves, and we had been out of town for 2 months. So we knew that we weren't using the water, and it turned out there was a leak in a main potable water line leading into our 3-unit condo combination. And they were able to repair that, and obviously everything has been corrected. So it doesn't mean you're using the water, but please look at your usage and look at that. That rate increase that we have had was very minimal in what's called Tier 1 water, which is the most efficient usage. And that's where most water usage occurs. Tiers 3 and 4, the rate increase was much larger. And so those letters have been sent out to Tier 4 usage. If it's a condo building, it would be the whole, whatever is on that meter. And if it's a single individual house, it would be just the home. So we've been traditionally sending Tier 4 letters. It may become necessary to also send Tier 3 letters, which are also in the excessive category. So I just wanted you all to be aware of that. We all kind of can play a role. We've talked a lot about what we can do to reduce water, shorter showers, low-flow shower heads, which, by the way, we do have several of them available here at the community center, and one just has to come in and ask. The supply at the moment is limited, but the first 50 people get one, so hopefully you will. And we also have available at no charge blue tablets. If you think your toilet might be leaking, come and get a free blue tablet. It'll drop it in your tank, and if your water in the bowl turns blue, you've got a leak. So we've got some things to help. The other thing that I think most people aren't aware of is if anyone in Third, or actually in the community, who has possibly a medical condition that requires them to have a walk-in tub and have using it frequently, it is possible to get a variance that would adjust the water rate. And it's a huge, when you think about the amount of water that a tub holds, would be really helpful. So I just wanted to bring that up. And most important, I'd like to invite everybody to join us. The next meeting of the Water Committee will be a week from Thursday on the 29th of July at 2 o'clock right here in this room. But in case you can't make it here, it will also be available on Zoom and on Granicus. And that's the report of the Water Committee.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. On to the report of Resident Policy and Compliance Committee, Director Jarrett.
Excuse me. The committee approved the motion to send to the board improvements in the resales process, which we brought to you today. The committee also discussed possible change in qualifications for multi-unit owners. And after much discussion, this item was tabled for legal review. The alterations manager presented the permitless permit process that United has already approved. The committee had several questions but was unable to agree to approve it without making some changes. So it was agreed to send this item to the Architectural Controls Committee for further discussion. And I want to mention one item that really came to my attention was the hardwood floor issue in multi-story buildings. And the last resolution we passed, and the one we're working, current resolution right now, is dated 2010. And I asked if we could take that up in the Architectural Controls Committee. I'm not on that committee, but I'd really like that to be brought up. And there are some other items that need to be looked at as well. So anyway, the next meeting will be held on August 24th at 9:30 a.m. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other third mutual committee reports we've skipped over, or any additional comments?
The landscape.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Let's do the landscape.
Okay, the landscape. This time of the year, landscaping is racing to get work done in time for their normal 4 cycles during this growth season. Grass is growing quickly, and weeds like thistles often grow many inches every day. It's hard to keep up with them, with those weeds right now. The budget is most likely fixed for 2022. I hope that we don't get any more cuts. We did have to cut $300,000 that we had added for another cycle for next year. But we were able to We are able to keep the 4 cycles during the year along with the slope and tree work that is mostly contracted out. We so far will end up, barring any changes in the budget, paying $81 per man or per month again next year. It would have been wonderful to add additional dollars and get more work done, like replacing turf with drought-tolerant plants, adding another crew, and much more. But the good thing is that we will still maintain current service levels with no layoffs. We will add 1 pest control worker, and those costs are to be shared with the other 2 corporations. The committee did not meet in the month of July due to lack of work requests submitted, but the next meeting will be held August the 5th here in the boardroom at 9:30 a.m., and we're looking forward to seeing residents back in the boardroom then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. John, comment?
You may want to mention, as you told me on the phone, that you've created a trash committee and that I'm the alternate. Craig is going to be the chair.
Yeah, that's going to be in GRF. We're just doing
okay.
third committee meetings right now. Okay, any others? Okay, on to GRF highlights, item 15. I'll go ahead and report for Director Bada, who's going to cover the CAC, Community Activities Committee. He was called away on personal business. He'll join us later. But some items he wanted mentioned were a meeting was held on the 6th of this month in the boardroom. It was attended by some concerned residents as well. Some more openings are announced as far as, I believe, the upcoming election. Garden Center 1 hosted a mini farmers market on July 10th, which was very well attended. People were lining up at 7:30 in the morning, and they opened at, I think it was 9, and by 10 o'clock everything was sold. So kudos to them, good produce. Monday movies on the 2nd and 4th Mondays of each month in Clubhouse 5 until our PAC is reopened after renovation. And then utilities of all facilities is gradually increasing, not anywhere near to pre-pandemic levels, so please help us with that. The next CAC meeting is scheduled on August 16th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. And that's his report. Okay, on to the Equestrian Center, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Equestrian Center Ad Hoc Committee met on July 7th at 2:30 p.m. It was an in-person meeting. In terms of what was discussed, it Help the Herd. It was reported that Help the Herd donor event was well attended. $9,695 has been raised to date, and the goal is $10,000 as expected. If anyone wishes to support the Equestrian Center, you can go to the Village Community Fund website at www.villagecommunityfund.org. Staff also reported that horse stalls are steadily getting filled. Currently, they have 24 boarded horses, 8 school horses, with 1 on the way, which leaves 1 vacancy currently, but will likely be considered the faculty at full capacity. Sorry about that. Some projects have been put on hold until they are fully staffed, but working hard to provide service to the community. They have recently started a writing program for the community. With the numbers of staff, they are doing a great job. The arena regarding the surfacing project is complete with minor touch-ups to be done. The Old Pros were planning to host an event at the Equestrian Center courtyard. No date was mentioned. The next meeting is scheduled for August 15th. It will be an in-person meeting.
Is that August 5th or August 15th?
5th, I'm sorry.
5th, August 5th.
August 5.
Okay, thank you. On to GRF Finance Committee, Director Muchnick.
Thank you. The committee last met on the 23rd of June. At the June meeting, it was reported that GRF had $822,000 in revenue over expenses for the budgeting period ending May 31st. For the same time period, GRF, in terms of water usage for May, they experienced the same difficulty that both United and Third experienced and has been discussed earlier in my third Treasurer's report. May was extremely dry month in terms of precipitation, and therefore much of the additional water used was from irrigation. The budget for water was based on a 3-year average that expected a 47% higher rainfall than was actually experienced in May. At the last regularly scheduled meeting of the GRF Finance Committee, there was a review of the investment policy. Currently, the investment policy for GRF, United, and Third are exactly the same and were written at the same time. GRF is considering revising its investment policy. A review of the reserve plan for GRF was presented. Currently, the threshold for GRF in terms of reserves is 8%. Which translates to $7,600,000. The current reserve balance at the end of May for GRF was actually $17,900,000, which equates to 18%. It should be noted that there is no statutory requirement in Davis Sterling for associations to have a reserve fund. However, an argument can still be made that there is an implied requirement to fund reserves because boards have a duty to impose regular and special assessments sufficient to perform their obligations under the governing documents. So it simply makes good sense to fund a reserve account to avoid, if possible, any special assessment. The reason for sharing this information with you is that GRF is considering decreasing the part of monthly assessment that goes to reserves as part of its 2022 budget plan. The GRF Finance Committee did consider recommendations from the Community Activities Committee to increase the cost of lockers, use of the golf driving range, and storage fees. The proposals for the 2022 budget in those areas are as follows. All lockers, regardless of where located, will increase to $25 in 2022. For the golf driving range, the cost of a bucket of balls will increase as follows. $1 buckets will become $2, $2 buckets will become $4, and $3 buckets will become $6. So basically, the cost of a bucket of balls, regardless of the size, is doubling in price. Storage fees for 2022 will be as follows. Small storage facility, $25, medium storage facility, $50, and a large facility, $100. It is anticipated that the increases I just listed for you will generate the following additional revenue. Lockers are expected to generate $6,610 additional revenue, the golf driving range, $83,000 plus, and the storage areas, $6,200. The next meeting of the GRF Finance Committee is Wednesday, the 25th of August at 1:30.
Thank you very much. On to GRF Landscape Committee, Director Jarrett.
We haven't met since June 9th, but our next meeting will be August the 11th at 1:30 p.m. And everyone's welcome to come to the boardroom.
Okay, thank you. GRF Maintenance Construction Committee, Director Frankel.
The committee met on June 9th. It was a very interesting and unusual meeting. The chair chose to preclude the attendance by staff. So as a consequence, there was a lot of discussion on the purpose was to go through the project status report, and there was a lot of discussion by each of the members on their opinions as to the status report, somewhat loose and opinionated. Inasmuch as there was no staff there, the scope of works was not corrected by staff, and but nevertheless, it was a loose and uncoordinated meeting, and it will be reported back by the chair to staff, who will attempt to incorporate the notes. Let's see, the next meeting is August 11th.
Okay, thank you. Clubhouse One Renovation Ad Hoc Committee, Director Engdahl.
Thank you. The last meeting of the Clubhouse One Renovation Ad Hoc Committee was held this past July 9th. We gave a quick review of the present status, during which there was reference made to some of the previous studies by SVA architects, looking at the structural, electrical, and mechanical components. a committee walkthrough last year in a study back in 2011 or 2012 was also mentioned as something the committee should review. I'm not particularly familiar with that. A preliminary rough draft of a request for proposal for a programmatic or utilization study, maybe a better word, had previously been prepared, and 6 potential architectural firms were invited to a pre-RFP meeting in March with the purpose of refining what the study should look like. But only 2 firms responded and made presentations. All this previous activity led to a preliminary conclusion that the Clubhouse was structurally sound but dated. While some small individual room upgrades had been done, more was needed. Some could be improved simply by paint and polish, and other areas exhibited need for more immediate and significant attention. For example, the pool equipment area and chemical storage area needed some remedial work, not just monitoring. Staff suggested much of this could be done possibly under the preparation for paint program. Brian Grinner estimated that most of our clubhouse facilities were typically utilized about 14 hours a day and 80 to 85% of capacity. And that was a lot. That surprised me. The main ballroom in Clubhouse 1 was over 90% usage rate. And the only thing I'd ever seen there before were a couple of Italian dinners and some dance classes, but I was glad to see that being used so much. It was generally agreed by the committee that additional study was needed, including a holistic consideration of all the village clubhouse facilities, not from a rebuild view, but from a utilization efficiency standpoint, including consultation with the various clubs regarding their needs and desires. Provision for adequate parking was also of significant concern, particularly around Clubhouse 1. It was also recognized that any changes to Clubhouse 1 need to retain flexibility and potential future repurposing. For example, a large area in the present facility is specifically committed by design to shuffleboard, and shuffleboard appears to be a presently dying interest. Currently, the archery clubs are shooting across all of the shuffleboard lanes to practice their archery, so they can't play it at the same time. It's also recognized that relatively small changes in anything need only conform to the existing building codes, while changes exceeding a certain upgrade cost to present value ratio may require building the entire building structure up to current code requirements, and that would be rather expensive. And at that time, it may demand that complete demolition and reconstruction happen. In any event, a number of things need further consideration before a final revision of the RFP. And the committee does intend to meet more frequently in the future. It's been, I think, every 3 months or so. But the next meeting is presently scheduled for August 6th.
Thank you very much. On to Media and Communications Committee, Director McCary.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Media and Communications Committee actually met July 19th, yesterday, in the boardroom. It was a hybrid meeting. The highlights of that meeting, Eileen Pollan reported that the website is continually evolving and updated regularly with information, updates daily from input from staff, from departments, from residents, and from clubs. She also reported that there is money put in the 2021-22 budget to update the website, and it looks promising. She's also working on a tutorial of some of the various topics that are on the website. One in particular is like dwelling lives, so more information to follow on that. The docent tours is expected to resume in person in August. Again, more information to come on that. New resident orientation, which is also done virtually, is expected to begin in person in August. Again, residents will be given information on that. She also reported on some of the updates for the publications for the Media and Communication, which includes such topics as the Village Breeze, a newsletter from the employee newsletter, and also from Manor Alteration. She also reported that the broadband group, the request for consultation agreement from the broadband group to come in and look at all the areas of the service. The staff recommendation was that we resubmit this recommendation to the GRF board with some recommendations that they had included. So the recommendation from staff was approved, and it will go to the GRF board for further approval. In addition, Paul Ortiz gave a very, very interesting presentation on the broadband group and the cable operations, and I'll just highlight just a few of those. First of all, the cable operation is better than budget. For the first 6 months of 2021, cable operation cost each resident $19.25 per man per month. Cable TV network operations budgeted for 2021 is $21.17 per man per month. The national average for cable television is approximately $100 per month, so there's some good news for us there. Other broadband service report included, as of June 30th, 2021, the media operation costs each resident $11.89 per man per month. Broadband services account for 42% of the GRF assessment revenue. Paul also gave an update on some of the programs that are going to be expiring starting July until the rest of the year, and more information will be coming out on that. But just to highlight a few of those, one of the Disney channels is expected to expire July 31st. Some of the ESPN classics, Disney channels, SCE Network. Other expiring programs include the Hallmark Channel, the Hallmark Movie Channel, and those are expected to expire October 31st, 2021. Additional programs, there's a lot of programs that are up for renewal or expiring. The Peacock, some of the programs on the Peacock network are expiring December 31st, 2021. Some of the Showtime programs are expected to expire as well. Some of the, what Showtime is actually costing, $14.25 per man per month. There's actually 379 subscribers to the Showtime network, and it's expected to be an automatic renewal. The committee also discussed some of the other programs and recommended not being renewed, and one of them had to do with an adult program, which only has a very few subscribers, but is costing quite a bit of money. So the committee recommended discontinuing of the adult program channel because low subscription and very costly. A lot of information about subscription and expiration date was in discussion. We also discussed some of the upcoming streaming services and some of the places that streaming services is offered, such as Amazon Prime and Netflix. So that was discussed. I think that is. We talked about a little bit about the internet. In terms of there's no price increase for the internet for the community since 2014. 67% of subscribers utilize 30 megabytes or less. GRF revenue shares with West Coast Internet. Non-assessment revenue year-to-date is $731,481,000.95. It was, as I said, it was a very, very interesting presentation, a lot of information, too much to recap for this meeting, but it was a great report. The next committee meeting will be August 16th. It will be an in-person meeting here in the community center. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions on that? Okay, on to Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Karimi.
President Parson, the committee met on June 2nd, which I reported in the past board meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled for July 28 at 1:30 p.m.
Okay, and Director Butta was going to report on the Security and Communications Access Committee. I said
Mr. President?
Meeting, yes, go ahead.
I have something to say on that.
On which one?
On security.
Oh, okay.
Am I up?
Go ahead.
Okay. Siobhan had commented earlier about the bicycles and getting them registered. I'd like to note that security recovered 3 stolen bicycles in one person's car.
In a car.
Yeah, in one person's car. So that gives you an idea why we should go ahead and register our bicycles. That's all I had to say.
Good point. That was one of the topics he was going to bring up. The last meeting was on the 28th of June. Next meeting's on the 23rd of August at 1:30 in the boardroom. And one item he wanted to bring up was, as the village is opening, there is an uptick in violations noted by the Compliance Division. Please note, nuisance is being reported mostly by your neighbors. So please be kind and be nice to your neighbors. Okay, on to disaster preparedness.
Thank you, President Parsons. The Disaster Task Force last met May 25th, 2021, and I did a report at the last month meeting. The next Disaster Task Force meeting is scheduled for July 27th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. And it will be, it says here, it will be a virtual meeting.
Okay, report Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings. Director Frankel.
I was out of town on a family vacation. Did anyone here attend that meeting? Well, if not, the meeting will be, the next meeting is tomorrow. They meet on the third Wednesday of every month. And of course, I'll be there then. Thank you.
Okay. GRF Strategic Planning Ad Hoc Committee, Director Muchnick.
Okay, thank you. The committee did meet most recently on the 28th of June, during which time VMS prepared and presented a very interesting slideshow discussing customer experience pilot program, as well as the whole issue of how we were going to handle facilities. Let me give you some highlights from all of that. The presentation followed three basic points. The objective one was to structure a plan to resolve 90% of resident service issues online within the next 5 years. That's the objective. The plan is to transition all residents, if possible, to online services. And three, to investigate a new system where one login provides access to all online services. The pilot program, which will begin January 1st, 2022, is to steer residents to the following: Ticket Pro for purchases of packed tickets, 4UP for tea times, and Courts for courts and swim reservations. And the whole idea is to try to come up with something in some way to incentivize or encourage residents to use the services online with possible discounts and prize drawings. And also to educate residents and offer in-person training at published times in both the PC and the Mac lab rooms, so that people can learn how to use the online access to those different activities. And then also, the goal is to develop some YouTube training videos and how-to guides, as well as to consider using what we'll call resident ambassadors to assist with some kind of concierge education function. If the pilot goes well, they'll consider adding ActiveNet and Dwelling Live and a resident portal for maintenance calls to the online system. Related to the Clubhouse One committee that Director Engel talked about, he mentioned in part of his report that there was a thought about a holistic approach looking at all clubhouses. That's one of the recommendations that seems to be coming out of the Strategic Planning Committee, is to expand from a single clubhouse approach to a facilities approach where all facilities will be considered in some kind of overall plan. All right. And they're going to review existing facilities for possible use, such as new multifamily units, land that we have available, as well as an amphitheater, an expanded partnership with Saddleback Emeritus for a joint facility. Those are just some of the things being talked about. Please don't think that any of those are being pursued specifically at this point. They're just ideas to try to generate revenue, to come up with uses for the land that we have. And there is no scheduled meeting at this point. It says, well, actually, the next meeting is, August 23rd, 11:30, and it'll be a virtual meeting. Thank you.
Okay, would you like to continue on with the budget meeting for GRF?
It's not the budget meeting for GRF. We had the budget meetings. GRF had a meeting last week with, it's related to the budget for all three of the mutuals for GRF, United and Third. United then had its meeting, and we had ours last Friday, and I thought it was very successful, where VMS did a great presentation in terms of going over all the different elements of our budget, where the increases are coming from, where we're kind of curtailing some of the programs, and how we arrived at the final current figure of the $93 per man or per month. So that was this. We had the second budget review last week. There'll be one more, and then the final adoption will take place hopefully in August.
Okay, thank you very much. As alluded to by Director Frankel about a trash ad hoc committee, I'd like Jeff and Siobhan to talk about the need, what's driving this from Sacramento. Would you like to bring that forward to everyone?
To President Parsons and board members and those watching. Last year, the state assembly and senate and the process up in the state of California, up in Sacramento, passed a piece of legislation that became effective in January, where cities are now required to implement a new waste stream, and that is food waste. And so food waste has to now be source separated and is going to be collected, just like recycling is now separated from regular trash. This is another level of trying to reduce the impact to landfills. And so this is a process that we are engaged with, because the city is now going through a new RFP process for their waste hauling. They currently have waste management. Due to the fact that this obligation is a requirement of the waste hauler moving forward, and the timing of the contract with the city, Waste Management basically said, well, we want to renew or re-up the contract. The city chose to do an RFP process as opposed to singularly negotiating with Waste Management. So they've now sent that out for a number of haulers to respond, hopefully, because it comes back to who's going to present the best bid to the city. What the city has asked us to do is participate in that, since we're such a large percentage of the community. And so a tour has been done for the waste haulers to go around and take a look at our facilities, because what this will require is an additional bin. And so, given our tight spaces and everything, how is that going to get created? Is it making the other bins smaller to accommodate a third bin? All of that kind of discussion is a requirement that's got to be part of the proposal by the new hauler with the city. Because of that, and because of the increased cost, the city had indicated to us, based on cities that have already moved more advanced than Laguna Woods has at this point in time, are seeing a minimum 20% increase in their trash rates. So a significant increase in our trash rates coming to the village because of this new state requirement that's being passed on to cities, who then pass it on to waste haulers, who then pass it on to the residents. So it's trickle-down theory from that perspective. So the process that we're now involved with, we've asked each of the boards to give us a representative that's going to be part of a committee that's going to work with the city to make sure that we address the concerns that we have here in the village, and make sure that the implementation process is met in an appropriate manner. And that'll all be incorporated into the review of the RFPs that come out into the city.
Okay, thank you very much. And to this end, our representative on that committee is Director Craig Wayne. If you raise your hand, please. And
yes, I resent the fact that you said I'm going to give this job to the trashiest person on the board.
There's a lot of implications to be worked on this. And the alternate on this is Director John Frankel. So we're looking forward to plans coming forward of how this is going to be implemented. Significant situations that have to be dealt with are like in the garden villas, how that's going to happen down the trash chutes and so forth. So any questions on that until the meeting, I think could be directed to the CEO's office. But once the meeting takes place, please contact Directors Wayne and Director Frankel. So any other GRF entity we've missed on this? Okay, if not, let's go on to future agenda items. Anything that needs to be taken off or added to? Okay, we'll go on to item 17, director's comments. We'll start on this side. Donna?
No comment, thank you.
Okay. I know, Craig, you want to say something. Go ahead.
No, I was being very good. I wasn't going to say any more about you thinking I was trashy.
Okay. Ralph?
I have no comment, thank you.
Lynn?
No comment, thank you.
Annie?
I just wanted to say it's great to be in the boardroom. It makes the meetings run so much smoother. So thank you.
Okay, Robert?
Just want to say I thought it was a very good meeting. Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, Reza?
No comment, Mr. President.
And John?
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a copy that that Jeff passed out of the two new people, the one's replacing Ernesto and then the number 2 guy. So if anybody needs a copy of this, I have it here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jeff? Anything?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Siobhan?
No, thank you.
Okay, Grant?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll recess and reconvene in our closed session. Thank you very much.
Upstairs. Closed session upstairs.
Yes.